And we've done a podcast before that have listed all the things that are these are what you should do to be a good thought leader. But we haven't focused too much on what doesn't work or what won't work unless you actually have a brand. So maybe we can kind of touch on that. And I guess an example that we can start off with is that one of your clients was trying to find deals, and you mentioned how hey, you should maybe focus on thought leadership first and have people kind of be comfortable with you and know who you are before you start asking them for money, because if you don't know who you are and you don't have really any experience in real estate, the only other way that you can, maybe not the only other way, but another good way to kind of gain experience is through thought leadership and putting out content for people. And so I guess I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, and when we say brands, some people have negative connotation towards that. I interviewed someone who did, and I guess I understand that, but what we're basically talking about is the image for our business. If our business is ourself, then it's building the image for ourself within the business sphere. And the important thing with brands or building your image is that we have to be known for something, and we are already known for something among our friends and family. If you haven't created a brand, if we haven't created something, we're already known for something. It's just, what is that? What are we currently known for? And the purpose behind having a more strategic approach on thought leadership is because it focuses the conversation on things that matter towards your business. Because right now we might be known as a good person who is true to their word, and a former someone who is formerly in sales or marketing. Okay, cool. But how does that help me if I'm, say, a wholesaler? How does that help me get more deals? Well, the true to your word part certainly does, because you're going to have a lot of people who trust you out the gate. But it doesn't necessarily position the conversation the way that you want it to be positioned entirely, because it's not focused on real estate. Therefore, in order to have a successful real estate company, we have to have the conversation focused more on real estate specific stuff. And how we do that is we can just be in the business for ages and ages, and then people start talking about us, or we can make a more concerted effort and have a thought leadership platform that allows us to create the conversation around real estate as it relates to us. And that's all that this is about. And what I was talking to my client about was, instead of looking for deals, if we don't have the money lined up, then perhaps taking a step back and not looking at the deals and looking at what type of thought leadership platform. So that can be an in-person meeting, that could be a podcast, that could be a YouTube channel, that could be maybe you do a bunch of Facebook Live videos, maybe you host maybe you have a blog that you do daily, but having conversation revolve around this. Because one thing that you mentioned earlier before we started recording was a point that I said about word of mouth being the number one influencer of purchase intent. So if we want people, and this is not just real estate related, this is everyone, but we just happen to be focused on real estate. If we want people to buy, then we need word of mouth referrals, because when we have a word of mouth referral, I know from my advertising days, I was the youngest VP of a New York City advertising agency. I know from those days and the research that we did that the number one way to have people buy your product or service is to have others recommend it to them who they know, like, and trust.
Yep.
And that's the long way of growing our business. But when we have thought leadership, we expand our reach, and we have more and more people talking about us. And it's not necessarily about our hard sales, our product. It's about what we're saying about the industry, which is much more important than what we have to sell, because it allows a way in for a lot of people and it allows us to be positioned as business partners, not salespeople.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if you didn't have to have a brand, but it's so clear that you have to have some sort of brand. I think the problem that people probably have with the word brand is just kind of the word itself. But if you just call it something different, like thought leadership, it's like, oh, okay, because it's basically the exact same thing. But in regards to the, when a word of mouth, I think we kind of talked about this either last week or the week before about validation. It might have been on one of the podcasts. No, it was. I think it was 2 weeks ago. When we were talking about when you're starting a business, one of the most important things in order to kind of get proof of concept for a product of some sort or a service is you need to get validation, you need testimonials. And I think you actually sent me an article about copy editing from Forbes, and that was one of the things too. Was like you need to have some sort of validation from your peers or from somebody. But something I read this morning, kind of about also the word of mouth referrals, is that 10,000 fans article. It's like one of the most popular marketing blog posts ever. And
Because of Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, because of Tim Ferriss.
Promoting it.
Yeah, it was in Tim Ferriss's book. That's a perfect example, right? So I mean, this guy wrote this article, and I'm not sure who. I have no idea who wrote it. The only reason I know that this article exists is because Tim Ferriss, who has a massive brand, like everyone knows who Tim Ferriss is. He's known for the being the guinea pig. Or another perfect example of someone that has a humongous brand is Trump, and now he's president. So whatever you think about the guy, he has a huge brand, and everyone knows who he is. And when you think about him, you think luxury and everything like that. But there's really no reason why the way he looks or you should think that way. It's just because he's built a huge brand. But in the 1,000 fans, it basically says that if you focus on kind of getting 1,000 true fans, they'll buy your things no matter what. Like no matter what you make, they're going to buy it. If you're a musician, you make a regular CD, they'll buy it. If you want on tape cassette, they'll buy the exact same one, or they'll buy the MP3 version of it. And you would think like, oh well, if I have 1,000 fans and I'm only making $10 per fan, like that's only $10,000 a year. Like how's that going to work? Well, obviously it's more complicated than that, because if you have 10,000 or 1,000 actual true fans, then on the surface of that you'll have people that kind of like you. They'll buy some of your stuff. Then you've also got your 1,000 true fans that are so obsessed with your product that they're all going to talk about it, right? Think about CrossFitters. All they can talk about is CrossFit constantly. I'm sure that's how CrossFit got so huge, because they get these people that are super obsessed with it. So maybe we can attach that article to this blog post, but this podcast. But it was just so interesting it makes sense, obviously, but if you got to just focus on truly adding value to a handful of people and focusing on those people, that the chain reaction can kind of go out and reach as far as it just happens to go.
To the book Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss, he puts all the podcast interviews to date in a book. One of the interviews he did was with Seth Godin. And Seth Godin, as I'm sure a lot of Best Ever listeners recognize his name, but if you don't know, he's a super savvy marketer. And if you just search Seth, I believe, in Google, then his blog comes up, something ridiculous.
I think it's
like
Seth's blog.
Seth's blog or something. Yeah, you'll find it. Anyway, Seth mentions in the interview, his recommendation to people is to start as small as you possibly can with your audience. So be as narrow as possible and then reach that audience. Once you reach that audience, continue to build from there. But make sure you start small, you get a loyal following, or some people call it tribe or community, whatever. You get a loyal group of people, and then continue to build from there.